everybody. Captain Rick Wright. This is NNOA, our weekly look at news, views, and historical perspectives of the world's greatest organization, the National Naval Officers Association. Hope your Thanksgiving was great. I know you're eating leftovers, huh? They taste good, after Thanksgiving and all. And of course, Christmas is coming up, and today is the 28th of November in the year 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue our incredible cruise with the National Naval Officers Association by bringing aboard today, as we celebrate the year of the captains, we have a beautiful captain. And this captain, of course, is the Executive Vice President of the National Naval Officers Association, a superstar, graduate of Spelman College and a lot of other great schools. But ladies and gentlemen, let's introduce to you and the world and our NNOA family, Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame, United States Navy retired, our distinguished leader who basically has all the knowledge with regards to the future and the direction of the National Naval Officers Association. Captain Blassingame, pleasure, wonderful to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
You're welcome. It's good to see you, good to be here. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, hey.
And now with that intro, you must go with me everywhere I go and lead with that.
We'll go with it because you are a superstar, a genius in the world of human resources management, one of the United States' greatest consultants in that area. And we'll get into that a little bit later too in our podcast. But today is the 28th of November, the year 2020. Hey, Captain Blassingame, how was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was good. It's different, as I imagine it was for a lot of folks. We have a large extended family, and we typically congregate together, 4 or 5 generations together under one roof, and we weren't able to do that this year. So it was definitely a smaller affair, but we needed to be safe to protect each other. So we're looking forward to next year, hopefully bringing our tradition back. But it was good.
Oh, and we're going through to all of our listeners and viewers throughout the world. And of course, everybody knows this, 2020, 28th November, we're going through a big pandemic. We're in the middle of the Thanksgiving holiday and of course, getting ready for December and Christmas and all of those good factors too. But let's get into Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame, superstar, United States Navy. Captain Blassingame, where were you born? Where's home for you?
I'm actually Georgia Peach. I was born and raised in Georgia, specifically Middle Georgia. So Macon is my hometown, and I was born and raised here. So my parents are also native to Georgia. My mother was born and raised in Macon, and my dad was born and raised in Jones County, Georgia.
I never forget the first time I went to Georgia. I was 10 years old. My aunt, who you would have loved, was one of the first African-American female Army officers.
Oh, wow.
Captain Edna Virginia Wright in the Army Nurse Corps. She was a graduate of Medical College of Virginia, St. Philip's School, which was all segregated in those days. But one of the programs that Dr. Merv McLeod Bethune, along with Mrs. Roosevelt, got going. And so my aunt married a gentleman by the name of Mr. Tyus Scott Few, who was a sergeant in the Army, and he was from Barnesville, Georgia.
There it is.
Yes, Barnesville, Georgia. And I never forget the time we drove. My aunt had just bought a brand new 1953 Pontiac, and we jumped in the car. My cousin Tyus, her son, was on the back seat eating all these sandwiches, and we drove from Elizabeth City, North Carolina to Georgia. Barnesville, Georgia, went through Griffin, and we'll talk about Atlanta. But Georgia Peach, wow. Now, what about high school and all of that kind of good stuff? What high school did you go to and what city, Captain Blassingame?
I graduated from Jones County High School, which is in Gray, Georgia. Very small, I guess, smallish high school. That county had one high school. So relatively what I would call a small rural town in Georgia.
I'm sure you were a superstar in that high school, weren't you?
I don't know about superstar.
Oh, I'm sure you were, but a great foundation was laid and you finished high school. Now, there is a great college in Atlanta, Georgia.
Several. There are several.
But
Yeah.
there is one in particular that I've always enjoyed called Spelman College. And of course, I really enjoyed that college because the president, Dr. Janetta Coles, came up to Syracuse University, where we're broadcasting from upstate New York, to get an honorary degree. And she told me about the history of Spelman and the production of incredible ladies become leaders of superstars. And how did you get to Spelman?
Great question. So as I mentioned, I had attended a high school in Georgia. And even though it was the late 80s when I graduated, we still had sort of a segregated experience, if you will.
Yes.
So we had like a Black homecoming queen and a white homecoming queen. And we had a Black most athletic and a white most athletic. So in my high school, I remember I received a senior superlative of most intellectual Black female.
Oh.
And I remember thinking, well, am I smart, or am I smart because I'm Black or female? It was just really confusing, you know. So I graduated at 17, and so I was already kind of tired of the dynamics of race. And I wanted to go to a place where I could compete based on performance only and not have my race be a factor. And so I knew I would attend the HBCU, and I wanted to go to Hampton. They had done a beautiful spread, probably in Ebony magazine. Remember when they would do that glossy spread and they laid out the campus, and it looked so green and pretty. And I wanted to leave the state of Georgia. I was really into traveling. You know, I wanted to see the world and experience it. So I thought I was going to Hampton. And my mother said to me, you have to apply to a school in Georgia too. You can't just apply to one school. So I applied to Spelman as my backup plan. But I went to the campus, and there were some beautiful sisters there. They were so warm and welcoming. And I never left. I never made it up past 75, 85. So I stayed, and I loved it. So that's how I got
the incredible philanthropy of Dr. Laura Spelman, Rockefeller money. Hey, said, hey, we got to keep this beautiful sister here at Spelman. Hey, what's those colors, blue and white?
Blue and white, yes. Our founders, Packard and Giles, started the school in the Atlanta Baptist Seminary with the Friendship Baptist Church, and they received a generous donation, as you mentioned, from the Rockefeller family. And the one condition, if you will, was that it be named after his spouse, who was Laura Spelman Rockefeller. So I stayed also in a Laura Spelman dorm, and so definitely a rich history there.
Great historical HBC University. Yes, there are other schools in Atlanta, like Morehouse in Atlanta. Yes, Clark, but
Morris Brown.
Morris Brown. Oh yes, in Atlanta, the ATL. Now, what did you major in at Spelman?
I was a biology, biochemistry major, so I had visions of being a pediatrician. So I had always wanted to do that. I had sort of an interesting story, but I was a premature baby, and back in those days, it was touch and go. I was also born a twin. My twin brother, who was sort of twice my size, made it 4 days. And I remember my pediatrician, who I really loved, Dr. Newberg, had these pictures on her wall of babies. And I would go and ask her, where was my baby picture? And I remember her saying she didn't take a picture of me because she didn't think I would make it. I was 3 months premature. But in that moment, I thought, well, I don't ever want babies not to make it. And so I said, well, I'll be a pediatrician, and maybe that'll help babies, you know, come alive. So I was a science major at Spelman, endeavored to be a pediatrician. The Navy, I know we'll probably talk about how I got to ROTC, but they
it's coming, yes.
To be a flight surgeon. So they sort of paired me with a female pilot over at NAS Atlanta to kind of shadow her and see what that would be like. So I really thought I'd be a doctor at this point. So but no, that is not what happened.
Okay, Spelman College, you want to become a doctor? And on this day, November 28th, the year 2020, you are a United States Naval captain, you've retired. And by the way, folks, this is NNOA, your host, Captain Rick Wright, and our guest today is the Executive Vice President of the National Naval Officers Association, Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame, United States Navy, and you are graduating from Spelman College. Hey, how did the Navy show up on the campus at Spelman, or how did the Navy scenarios going to develop so we get that commission, Captain?
They did. They were on campus. They were at Morehouse as a unit. And I'll be honest, I did not, I do have family members, including my father and my sister, who were Army veterans. But everyone in my family, I have Air Force vets, Army vets, Marine Corps vets, all throughout my family, but all were enlisted, except for one, captain in the Army. And so in my mind, I thought that the only way to become an officer in the military was by being enlisted first. Now, the recruiters who came to my high school sort of, not sort of, but they actually said that to me. Actually, the Army recruiters in particular said it was easier to be an officer if you were enlisted first, and they were trying to get me to enlist because in that time, I don't know if they do it now, but they made all of the kids take ASVAB.
Yeah.
So my scores were pretty good, and so the recruiters were really heavy into that. But no one ever, and I would always be very clear about what my goals were and that I was going to college first, etc. No one ever mentioned ROTC to me ever. Never knew it was a thing. Now, interestingly enough, one of my counterparts, a white gentleman, was going to Georgia Tech, and we were in the same classes, honors classes, etc. We were at the top of our class. And I think he was actually, remember I told you I was Black female most intellectual.
Yes,
so
you're brilliant, you're a spot. Yes, you are.
He had been given a full 4-year Air Force ROTC scholarship. No one had ever mentioned ROTC to me. So I didn't know it was a thing. One of my resident assistants at Spelman was in the ROTC program, Shirley Green. She's at Harvard University now. But Shirley would wear her little bell bottoms and do her drill things. But again, Shirley had also been prior enlisted. So that was the narrative. Situation happened. My parents' financial situation changed. And they weren't sure they were going to be able to help me stay at Spelman. So during that time, we had catalogs, right? Nothing was online. So I remember I took out the school catalog book and flipped to the back where all the scholarships were. And I was going through the list, sort of checking off the things that would help me stay at Spelman. And ROTC was one of those options. And it said full tuition, fees, and books. Wow. And Navy, yes, Army, and the Air Force option was to go across town to Georgia Tech. So I went to, they had a ROTC event. I think it was like their Miss ROTC ball pageant, something happening on the campus. And I saw Master Chief Hutchinson. He's a legend in these streets for sure, for the many of folks that he has brought to and through the Navy and the Marine Corps. But Master Chief was there, and he asked me my name, my GPA, and my major. And he asked me my SAT score. It's always screening. And he told me to come back on Monday to see him. And the rest is history. So I showed up.
The rest is history. So you're in that crosstown Naval NROTC program, Atlanta, Georgia Tech, the Grambling Wreck. They probably tried to steal your Georgia Tech and said, my God, how do we let this young, beautiful sister get to Spelman? But that's another story. Okay, now, Captain Simonia Blassingame, the Executive Vice President of the National Naval Officers Association, is our guest on this episode of This is NNOA, produced by Roosevelt Reuben Wright III. Now, we are graduating from Spelman. You got that beautiful academic robe on. You got that blue and white, good stuff you wear on your uniform, on your academic regalia. You got your commission as an ensign there, right?
Yes.
Okay, Captain, what happens next?
So the interesting thing is about my junior year, before we get to commissioning, I didn't think I wanted to be a doctor anymore. So remember, at 8, I decided I want to be a doctor. So my junior year of Spelman, I was like, oh, I don't think I like this anymore. I don't know that I want to go down this path. What do you do? So I remember talking to my lieutenants at the ROTC unit and sort of expressing my dismay. And it was, we talked through the options. I could obviously change my major to something else, which would possibly to delay my commissioning and my graduation. I didn't want that. And so he proposed that I just come into the Navy during that time into the general unrestricted line community, the 11th community, and spend 2 years doing that. And at the end of that 2 years, if I wanted to, I could then reapply to the medical scholarship and go to the Uniformed Services Health program and go through their med school program and get back, quote unquote, on track. So I thought that was a great idea. So I signed up to be part of the General Unrestricted Line community. My first duty station was at VAW 120 in Norfolk, Virginia. And 2 years went by and I still didn't want to be a doctor and I never went back. So I took it one tour at a time, basically. Whatever the Navy was offering me. Remember, I wanted to, I joined the Navy to see the world. And so I was really looking forward to other
To
opportunities.
see the world from Georgia. Now, Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame, the Executive Vice President of the National Naval Officers Association. Your first naval assignment was with Victor Alpha Whiskey 120, Naval Air Station, Norfolk, Virginia, right?
Yes.
God works in mysterious ways. When I was a young man, in fact, last week we had Captain Eson O. Simon, who is the medical director of the United States Coast Guard Academy at New London. His first assignment when he became a flight surgeon was at Elizabeth City Coast Guard Air Station. Captain Blassingame, as a young man who was crazy about aviation and electronics growing up in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, we used to take our bicycles out to a side road right next to the landing area at the Coast Guard Air, Elizabeth City, North Carolina. And what I didn't realize at that time, all of those naval aircraft like the S-2F trackers, ASW aircraft were doing practice touch and go landings. And one day I noticed the markings on the plane and it was Victor Alpha Whiskey VAW 120. And here you are as your first assignment and talking about that. It brings back so memories of aviation and naval aviation. And that kind of squadron was a replacement squadron. Wasn't it the squadron called the RAG Squadron?
Yes.
What did you do in the squadron at Norfolk Naval Air Station? What were your duties, brand new ensign?
Great tour for me. They had me in a couple of different assignments. I was the public affairs officer. I was a legal officer. Then they moved me to my first division, which was as the line division officer, which was really, really an experience. So most of the airmen that were on the line were pretty much my age, between 18 to 21. And so I show up and all of a sudden I'm the new divo. And during that time, it was really interesting. I think truly the way I got the assignment is because some of the line women, the airmen, were pregnant and they weren't sure what was happening. And so they thought putting a female divo in the way of that I might be able to figure out if it was in the water. And I was like, well, if it's in the water, I don't want any either. So I'm nervous about going here. No, but so anyway, it turned out to be a really great experience.
Great assignment. Now, Captain Blassingame, for our audience that's checking out the program, this is NNOA. What is the timeline? What year were you at Naval Air Station, Norfolk, Virginia, and VAW 120? And of course, your graduation year at Spelman was what was the year?
Yeah, I was graduated and commissioned in 1992. And so I was at the squadron there from 92 to 94.
Okay, roger that. Now, join the Navy and see the world. Is the Navy getting ready to fulfill that incredible promise to you?
It was not, because I told my well, I won't say I told my detailer, when you talk to your detailer before you make your assignments, I asked the detailer, because I'm from the East Coast,
yes,
to go on the West Coast. So I was really angling for San Diego. And then I also mentioned that I did not want to go to a squadron at that point, because at that time in the Navy's history was during tailhook. And so there was just a lot of media surrounding aviation and I wasn't sure what that might be like. So I thought, hey, let's just steer clear of that and not do aviation and do West Coast. How hard can it be? Of course, the detailer doesn't take well to the ensign dictating where they want to go. And so
yes,
it me to an East Coast aviation squadron to show me who was boss. So that's how I ended up at VAW 120. Not only did I end up at a squadron, but I ended up with a tailhook squadron. So definitely an interesting experience.
Now, you are laying the foundation, it looks like, you have become really one of the top experts in human resources management in the country. And you got a big confirm down in Georgia where you are this morning, and we'll angle into that. But tell us about some of those great Navy spots that you showed. You did get over the Mediterranean, didn't you? Place like Greece.
My next tour was in Greece. So I went to Greece to be their administrative officer. Again, that was my first opportunity. At that time, there were she mentioned three arduous duty locations for us. And there was Adak, Alaska, Diego Garcia, and Suda Bay Creek, Greece. And so I'm looking at the phone, because of course then we use telephones to communicate with our detailers. And she's telling me that if I would just please consider going to Suda Bay Creek, Greece, the Navy would really, we know that would be arduous duty. I'm thinking, I'm in my early 20s, I'm not married, I don't have children. You want to send me to Greece full time and pay me, and this is arduous. I was like, sign me up. So,
let me go.
Yeah, let me go.
So you enjoyed your duty station in Greece still?
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. It was fabulous.
Okay, fantastic, great time. Beautiful sister from Georgia, there in Greece. So after Greece, what next duty station did you go to, Captain Blassingame?
Horrible, horrible thing. No, it's not horrible at all, because then she calls me with a great opportunity. And I will say, this is not all, so when I was in Greece, let's say I had a great tour. My Captain Black was a great commanding officer. They would let me, during that time, our executive officer had some health challenges and needed to go back for medical treatment. And so they elevated me as a lieutenant, very junior JG lieutenant, to be the executive officer of this multinational base overseas. And so I had really good experience there. And so as a reward, if you will, the detail, for me taking this arduous duty and for doing such a great assignment, the detailer and my commanding officer had worked out this deal for me to go to Sincus Navure as my follow-on assignment. And I was super excited about it until I got a phone call from the chief of staff, who called to tell me that despite my record and my performance, that he wanted to personally call me and let me know that it was due to no fault of my own, but that an admiral's daughter actually wanted that job now, and his hands his hands were tied, and that the billet that they had promised me and that I was going to go to, actually they had to give it to somebody else, and they were really sorry about that. So the detailer called me back and felt really badly about it, and so she tried to find me something comparable. So she offered me a assignment at St. Pat Fleet in Hawaii. So I went, instead of going to Sincus Navure, I ended up going to Hawaii. And I think the concern they had was basically sending me from one island to another. But again, I'm in my 20s, I don't have children. You want to send me to paradise for a couple of years. Okay. So
okay. Now, Captain Blassingame, my God, Spelman College, Norfolk, Virginia, Greece, Hawaii, the United States Navy. Now, you are the executive vice president of the National Naval Officers Association. Captain Blassingame, how did you discover NNOA in your, I'm sure in your junior level, arenas of being a naval officer? How did you discover NNOA in your life?
I was so really blessed. I don't know who or how it came to be, but I don't have a memory of my time in Norfolk that doesn't include NNOA. So very early on, as an ensign, I was caught up into the NNOA web, meaning that I bought my first house in January, and my realtor was a retired Navy commander who I met through NNOA. So he took me around to do house shopping. Another friend, Lieutenant Commander Tracy Etheridge Brown, was the maintenance officer at VRC 40, which is a sister squadron to VAW 120, the C2s. And she was like a big sister to me, and she was very active in the NNOA chapter. Captain Don Flowers was then Commander Flowers, and he became the president of our local NNOA chapter, and that they had me in charge of the scholarship program. So everything about my time in Norfolk is really mixed with memories of NNOA. So I'll be honest, I don't remember a time that I wasn't a member of NNOA, and that because of that association really helped me tremendously in my career, in the sense that they were active mentors. Like, they would have me write memos for things through the NNOA position and then critique them and tell me what was good about it, what was bad about it. If I had to write a real memo at work, I could send it to a member of NNOA, and they would talk about that with me and help me smooth it so that I could send it up to my chain of command. So one of the interesting things that used to always happen with me during my career, people would say things like, "You seem more mature than your rank would allow. But it was because all of the people I knew were senior military officers who have been training me and grooming me since I was an ensign. So if you hang around lieutenant commanders and above, and they start critiquing your writing, then you start to write like a lieutenant commander or above. And so things with NNOA, I can't talk about or express my gratitude enough for both the generosity of spirit of its members, but how valuable it was to me as a junior officer. And I would want that experience for every minority naval officer to have an NNOA in their lives.
All from Georgia. What's that high school again? Jones?
Greyhounds, yes.
Jones, the Greyhounds, Jaguars, Feldman.
Yes,
Oh
yes.
God, got your commission. Yes. Wow, we send you to Norfolk, Virginia Naval Air Station. You go to Greece, and then you say, okay, let's see if we can make her disappear. So let's send her to Paradise. That's a good place. Hawaii. Now, out in the Pacific, Hawaii. Roughly, what is our timeline there, Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame?
I'm still a lieutenant at this point. And,
okay, and this is still in the 1990s?
The mid to late 90s. So
mid to late 90s. Okay, you leave Hawaii, Pearl Harbor, all that beautiful glory, beaches and all the goodies, and still the remnants of Pearl Harbor and December 7, 1941, and Dory Miller had laid all of that foundation for you. What's the next move as you join the fleet?
Again, I will talk. This is where you name names. To protect, to indict the guilty, so to speak. So now retired Captain Pat Williams was my detailer.
Yes.
And early in the NNOA members. So early into this tour, they had mentioned that I had to have a master's degree to really be considered competitive for promotion to 04.
Yes.
So I worked and used tuition assistance and went to Troy because I did not want to go to California at all. Under no circumstances was I going to the Naval Postgraduate School. So to avoid this feat, I went and used tuition assistance and got my master's degree in educational leadership so that I could earn a subspecialty code in education.
And it was at Troy University, was that great university?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
So that worked out great. And I remember calling Pat back and I said, hey, you told me I had to have a master's degree and you wanted to send me to postgraduate school, but look, I have a degree, it's got a subspecialty. What's on that? Where are we going? And she said, you are still going to the postgraduate school.
Postgraduate school, Monterey, California, Paradise is coming again. And of course, your master's degree at the Naval Postgraduate School. Boy, this timeline is working nice. The gods are really in your flavor and your favor. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this is NNOA, our weekly broadcast to the world and out of great, incredible members of the United States Navy, United States Marine Corps, United States Coast Guard, the Public Health Service, the oceanographic, wonderful brothers and sisters in what we call NOAA, N-O. What's that? N-O-A. Gotcha. Alrighty. They're part of the group too. We're going to be getting you on board also, all those great members also. Now, Captain Simonia Blassingame, you are hanging around the Naval Postgraduate School. A lot of good stuff happened out there to you, didn't it?
That's right. They say you go to the postgraduate school, you end up with a diploma, which you want, or a degree, but sometimes you'll also get a dependent. You might get a dog, and if you don't plan your studies right, you could end up with a divorce. So the question is, what kind of D's will you leave the postgraduate school with? So I did earn a degree, and I also got a dependent. So I met the love of my life there. He was a civilian from Seaside, California.
Yeah.
So I met my husband while I was a student at postgraduate school. So thank you, Pat Williams, for sending me against my will.
Oh, I never forget Admiral Marsha Evans was superintendent at the Navy Postgraduate School. She used to call me, in fact, after my years of spending on faculty at Syracuse University in the Newhouse School of Public Communications, she kept wanting me to come out and do a guest lecture at the Navy Postgraduate School, but I was so busy at Syracuse, I could never get away. But what a beautiful...
They would love to have you. We still have advocacy there now with our new president, with Admiral Rondeau. I'm sure we would love to have you at the postgraduate school. So think about it when the pandemic lifts. Take
okay.
You can broadcast live from the Naval Postgraduate School. I can see it.
You can see it. Okay. Well, you're the Executive Vice President of the great National Naval Officers Association, headed up by Admiral Sinclair Harris. And we have an incredible board and everything. Now, Captain Blassingame, the 50th anniversary of the National Naval Officers Association is coming up in the year 2022. We're going to be showing up the United States Naval Academy. What are some of your reflections on what can we expect? What are the plans? I'm sort of in the process too, and Captain Robert Dews, just his name, is our head of the F activity. But when we get together at Annapolis, Maryland, what would that event mean to you?
Well, I mean, we have a lot of things planned. Some things will be surprises, so I certainly don't want to.
Yeah, don't get all the surprises yet. But it's sort of generalities is what we.
But it's an opportunity to celebrate both what we have done and what we have been. The founders of this organization had a vision that I think probably is starting, has realized beyond their wildest dreams. I mean, we have things happen, even if you think about the new battalion commander at the Naval Academy, soon to be Sydney Barber.
Sydney Barber, yes, what a story.
Unimaginable things probably when they thought about standing up this organization. And so I think it'll be an opportunity for us to both celebrate the founders and their vision. It's a way for us to pay homage to the many leaders who have come before us, and particularly impressed upon the value of NNOA and use their time and their talents to sustain this organization over the past 50 years. A huge part of this will be to make sure we introduce the organization to some younger JOs who may not know it the way we did. Remember, I experienced it very early in my career, and it made all the difference. And I think a lot of our members, especially our life members, once you become connected to NNOA, you both see its value and what it gives to you, and then you want to give back to it. And so I think it's just going to be a huge celebratory event and a love fest, I would call it.
Yes.
So.
Well, Lieutenant Commander Wesley Brown, the first African-American graduate of the United States Naval Academy, is smiling in heaven. And of course, he's still with us. Admiral Lawrence Chambers, the second African-American graduate of the Naval Academy, still on the scene with us. We're going to get him on the program too in the up and coming days. And of course, isn't that an incredible event though? Midshipman Sydney Barber, the brigade commander at the United States Naval Academy, which is really the highest position, folk, at the Naval Academy among the students. And man, she's got Bancroft Hall looking like heaven. What a story.
And she mentioned in one of our interviews, I don't know if everybody had a chance, if you can Google the interview she did with the CBS morning news, one of the things she mentioned is that her mentor, which is also a Black female graduate of the Naval Academy, impressed upon her to put her name in the hat to be considered, right? And so that's what NNOA is about too, in terms of mentorship. Remember, I talked about they pushed me to do things that I felt were uncomfortable or even unattainable in some cases, but my mentors could see things in me that I couldn't see in myself. And the same would be true today. And that's why an organization like NNOA is so important, because once you align yourself with people who sort of been where you're trying to go, they can see that, oh no, you can actually do this, or you are prepared for this in ways that you don't see it. So if Captain Lacey hadn't said to Midshipman Barber, no, you actually should put your name in the hat, because she had been there before, right? But no one was there to tell her when she was a midshipman, you should put your name in the hat. And she didn't want to see that play out again some 20 odd years later. And so that's the gift of mentorship. And
well, the 50th year anniversary of the National Naval Officers Association coming up. Captain Kenneth Johnson, he's in heaven smiling this afternoon too. I had a chance to go up close and personal with him before he died and went to naval heaven, one of our founders of the National Naval Officers Association. Hey, Captain Simonia Ridley, we got a brother up in the International Space Station right now, flying around in the heavens. Oh, wow. Yes, indeed. Commander Victor J. Glover, big highs to you. We got to get you watching it. This is NNOA for the International Space Station, and we'll get that message to you also. Now, Captain Blassingame, now, the Navy career has gone great. You've laid the foundation for being an incredible human resources management person. Seems to be your world of expertise, and you're doing really some magnificent things with that area. Also, the Chamber of Commerce is in your life right now, isn't it?
That's a new thing, yes. I became the Chamber president and CEO of the Forsyth Monroe County Chamber of Commerce back in January of 2020, actually. So almost a year.
So you're in the big state of Georgia. By the way, Georgia is becoming the center of the universe with an election coming up very
Hot
shortly.
spot right now, a little bit all out of the month, a little bit of a
Your
hot
phone
spot.
is ringing off the hook, I'm sure, down there, right there, too, huh? Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame. Ladies and gentlemen, this is NNOA, our weekly look at news, views, and historical perspectives with regards to the National Naval Officers Association. And our guest today is the Executive Vice President of the National Naval Officers Association, Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame, United States Navy retired, and she is doing an incredible job. Hey, Captain Blassingame, give a big shout out to your mom there.
Hey, we'll talk about my parents. Yep, my dad is retired presiding elder Benjamin Ridley of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and my mother is Dorothy Ellis Ridley. She is the owner, founder, operator of Dots Forget-Me-Nots fashion boutique in downtown Macon, Georgia. So after this is over, I'm going to help her do her Facebook Live Shop Small Saturday. So really proud of my parents and all that they are. They are hugely generous people. They taught me a lot about service, a lot about community, a lot about activism, and about being present in your community. So love my parents, and really grateful that my husband agreed to let us move back to Central Georgia so we could be close to them. So excited to be.
So you grew up in the AME Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, the Church of Bishop Richard Allen. So your segment was kind of discovered church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Well, I grew up in the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. All right, Bishop Varick over in New York City. Both churches got going at the same time and really became the Freedom Church and the heads of the abolitionist movement, getting our people out of slavery to freedom. Oh, you have an incredible pedigree, Captain Simonia Blassingame. Wow, what a story. Now, hey, Captain Blassingame, before I let you go today, because I know you got to go, 12 noon is coming up, and Reuben Wright the third is our executive producer and director. He's getting ready to watch the Syracuse University North Carolina State football game, and we've been doing horrible in football.
Well, maybe today's your day.
You know, the orange has been going under. But I do want to bring up a fact. The 13th of November, 1944, before I let you go today, two beautiful sisters entered into the officer candidate program at Smith College. And I'm really making this because today is the 28th of November, 2020. But 76 years ago today, two beautiful African-American sisters were at the officer candidate program at Smith College, training to become the first African-American female officers in the United States Navy. Lieutenant Harriet Pickens and Ensign Francis Willis, United States Navy. And of course, they got their commissions on the day after Christmas, 26 December, 1944. And the point I'm making, they were going through it as we have this broadcast. Who would have thought 76 years ago? Before I let you go, Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame, incredible, amassed career in the Navy. When I mention those two names to you, because we always talk about the Golden 13, but in our historical timeline, what we got to start talking about is those two dynamite sisters, Lieutenant Pickens and Ensign Willis. We got to mention them. What does that mean to you as we think about it on this day?
It's so interesting. So I have a picture of me and a couple of my friends, and we were probably JOs. I think I was a Lieutenant JG. It's on my Facebook page and on my wall, and it's a picture I think I shared during my ceremony. And we were doing a celebratory event where we had created in Norfolk for in 1994, celebrating them because of that. And you're right. We do mention the Golden 13 a lot, and I celebrate those gentlemen. But for me, these two ladies are also very near and dear to my heart. And when I had my ceremony, I had sort of a progression of photos of people who inspired me on this journey, some of whom I'd never met. And they were part of that, as were the Golden 13. General Marcelite Harris was from Spelman, but she was Air Force's first three-star general.
General, yes.
Was a part of that journey for me. There are just so many heroes. And then, of course, our very own, when I joined the Navy, there had not been any Black female admirals at all. And I thought, coming from a place like Spelman, you're like, how can that be? And so in my time here in the Navy, I was so thrilled to get a chance to see and meet Admiral Fishburne, to also get to know Admiral Andrews, who was my retiring officer at my graduation, also a Georgia Peach and a graduate of Savannah State.
Okay. Yes, Admiral. Yes.
I remember at an NNOA event meeting then Lieutenant Commander Michelle Howard doing a presentation at one of our conferences. And so the Navy has expanded and grown, but these women, the two you mentioned, and these three ladies are giants to me. And then some of the ones that we serve with, I'll just call it now. I've probably not known Commander Denise McCalla-Creary in my entire career, but the things that she has done for NNOA in particular, the things she did for Black women in terms of getting us to be able to have our hair in braids, just tremendous leaders and trailblazers that have been associated and affiliated with NNOA and activism in United States Navy. So we have giants among us even that we should continue to celebrate. So she was also the first female president of NNOA, which And so again, like you said, for this time with our 50s will be a time to remind everyone of the folks that have certainly come before us, and to celebrate those giants that are still with us, and then to remember those who've gone ahead. Like we got the news this week that Captain Percy Norwood of the United States Coast Guard, Captain Norwood, has passed away. Commander Bundy, we've had some significant losses this year, but
Centennial 7, yes,
definitely made an impression on my life. I can't remember. I mean, I've gone to a lot of NNOA conferences and symposium over the years for professional development and for leadership and growth, and to sometimes walk into those ballrooms and see other Black or minority officers in these sea service uniforms always had a tremendous impact. So even when I was in a squadron of one, or if I was in a command and I was the only minority, I remember walking into flying onto the USS Enterprise for my tour as a training officer. And they were out on deployment. And the first thing I thought of when I went into my first department head meeting, I was one of the most junior department heads at the time in that carrier, was thinking, I've got to find a Liberty buddy. And based on just position and rank, it should probably be somebody in this room. And there were no other women, female department heads, and there were no minorities. And I remember looking at that room thinking, who is going to be my Liberty buddy? What is that going to look like, And so NNOA offered opportunities for me to see others like me who were serving their country. So I think it's a powerful organization. I love her, and I'll do anything in service to NNOA.
Well, you're doing a magnificent job. Also, another big shout out again to Commander Denise McCalla-Creary, the immediate past president of the National Naval Officers Association. And wow, just this week, Admiral Michelle Howard, 4-star, who at one time, just incredible, 1982 graduate of the United States Naval Academy, is part of the transition team of President-elect Joe Biden, a good friend of mine who's a Syracuse University alum of our law school, and Admiral Michelle Howard's on the transition team to start setting up people to get into the Department of Defense at the Pentagon.
I'm glad you mentioned her name. So when I retired, she also retired in 2017.
Yes.
And I actually bought her a gift, and I have to find it somewhere. I moved it to Georgia, and it's here somewhere, but I have something for her that I'm going to mail to her one day. It was when I retired, I made it a point to sort of, for those that were still living, to buy something for those who had inspired me, even though they didn't know me.
Yes.
So I've been toting around her gift somewhere. It's packed away. So when I find it, I will mail it to her.
Well, I tell you what, hold on to the gift, because I'm going to get Admiral Michelle Howard on This Is NNOA, our weekly podcast of news, views, and historical perspectives of the National Naval Officers Association. One thing before I close out our incredible conversation today, Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame, NNOA for me in 1982, I never forget when I first went down and discovered NNOA, and walking into the ballroom of the Waterside Hotel in Norfolk, Virginia, and walked in 1982. And that first session, Admiral, the moment of walking in and seeing all of these brother and sister Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard officers was one of the most impressive sights I've ever seen in my life. And Admiral Lawrence Chambers was the kickoff keynote speaker that day. And meeting Commander John D. Fauntroy, who was the Superior Court Judge of the District of Columbia, was the president at that time, was just, I think, one of the most amazing moments of my life. And then, of course, to rediscover and find NNOA again 5 years ago, thanks a lot to Denise McCullough-Crary and Captain Warren Judd, United States Coast Guard, who's a graduate of Elizabeth City State University. I'm back on board, and this has been a pleasure. Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame, the Executive Vice President of the National Naval Officers Association, and our great President, Admiral Sinclair Harris, United States Navy retired. Captain Blassingame, this has been an honor and a pleasure to have you on board. And of course, we have a lot of other guests coming up on our weekly podcast who are coming up, and we're going to have a great time letting the world know about our organization, which is, I would say, the top affinity group with regards to diversity within the ranks of the sea services. Captain Blassingame, your mother is waiting for you, Facebook Live. Give my best to the AME Church down there in Georgia. And let's tell everybody in Georgia, let's get out and vote. Let's vote in that, you're with the Chamber of Commerce down there now. Let's get the vote out for that special election with regards to the United States Senate in Georgia. And I know you're working real heavy, hard, and beautiful. Captain Simonia Ridley Blassingame has been our guest today on This is NNOA as we get ready for December and Christmas. And today's show has been produced and directed by Roosevelt Reuben Wright III. Captain Blassingame, I salute you. You must, hey, by the way, Captain Blassingame, isn't there a sorority that you're a member of?
No, it is not. I am not a member of I am a member of the Links Incorporated, not
the Links.
Divine.
Okay. That's just big. That's just as big. Spelled. But look, love you. Love you, love you, love you. And to all the membership and all the chapters throughout the world, Captain Rick Wright, United States Navy retired, your historian and executive producer and director, Reuben Wright III. We are broadcasting from Marcellus, New York, in the suburbs of Syracuse. And to Captain Simonia Blassingame, United States Navy retired in Georgia, I salute you, and Hayes Gray, and we are underway. I got to go watch some football now and see if we can get a win in the win column today. Later, bye-bye, everybody.